Alrighty. Came across this one on accident. Also while I was doing that other video, and I thought this one was really interesting since I'm doing this. Alright, this is Diesel We the People News. Alright, it's a learning video. And this video is without prejudice or recourse, and I'm not waiving any of my rights at all. Alright, this is actually off the same video as last time, Destroyer IVD, okay? And then again, his main focus is about child support things, okay? Now, again, y'all, you made them, take care of them. But for most of y'all out there, quit getting the government involved in your family affairs. It does not help you. Tell me one thing the government really actually does to help you. You know, they actually cause more conflict and more harm than anything else, y'all. So, I think they have a reason and a purpose. Okay? But they took something that they're limited on and made themselves gods. Or actually, they made themselves kings. Here recently, they made a Supreme Court opinion, or ruling, what you guys call it, that they changed it into gods. Alright. Anyway, let's proceed forward on this.
Hotep, I am the Amen Osiris, the one and only undisputed God of law. We are deception stoppers. America's only child support education service, the 4D destroyers. I am not a lawyer. This is not a law firm. I don't advocate that you don't support your human offspring. I simply advocate that you made them in private, take care of them in private. And
I'm not an attorney either.
I'm shouting out to my brothers in Ohio. All right, and fellas that are all over the nation, don't feel excluded. You can find the same information. This is not legal advice in your state statutes. Those of you who remember, in Ohio, ex-judge dragged from courtroom after sentencing amid cries of no justice, no peace. Excuse me. And that was Judge Tracy Hunter. Okay, now we're gonna go down here. Hunter, 52, was sentenced to 6 months in jail, convicted of a felony count of unlawful interest in a public contract. Now, this is a judge, which charged that she gave confidential documents to her brother for disciplinary hearing in his court job. That 2014 ruling was upheld in state appeals court, and in May, a federal judge rejected her bid to avoid jail. Okay, now, if they can convict Tracy Hunter, okay, for unlawful interest in a public contract, then any judge can be convicted of it in Ohio. And again, gentlemen, I'm quite sure it works in every state. I just happen to be researching this, and I wanted to share it with you. Okay. Now we're going to go to Law Writer. Okay, and this is Ohio Law 2921.42, having an unlawful interest in a public contract. Now I have this volume as well. It reads a little bit different in volume, but it's pretty much accurately on point. Okay, no public official shall knowingly do any of the following. Number 1, authorize or employ the authority or influence of the public official's office to secure authorization of any public contract in which the public official, a member of the public official's family, or any of the public official's business associates has an interest. Okay, so we're going to go down here. We're to section E. Whoever violates.
I'm going to pause that for a second. Okay. Remember a few times I've talked about this, right? The attorneys don't have obligation to you. Yours, hers, to her, or vice versa, and the judge, because they're all contracted to the state. And from the county to the state, state to the federal government. So, therefore, there's conflict of interest on that behalf. So they are basically doing what he's saying.
section is guilty of having an unlawful interest in a public contract. Okay?
That's what I meant. It's the judge's ruling on the best interests of the state and federal government, not on dad or mom or what you guys call child, your offspring. Has nothing to do with your family or ex-family. It has to do with the interests of the courts to uphold the contract they did with the federal government.
2. A violation of Division A1 or 2 of this section is a felony of the 4th degree. Violation of Division A3, 4, or 5, these are the different sections up here, of this section is a misdemeanor of the 1st degree. Okay? So this up here, this is a misdemeanor of the 1st degree. Okay? Now, how would you prove that a judge who is presiding over a 4D crime family case has an unauthorized interest in a public contract? Very simple. All right, we'll go to the Ohio contract. Okay? Contracts overview. This rule and its supplemental rules describes the process by which Child Support Enforcement Agency enters into a 4D contract with a governmental entity or a private entity to provide services, 4D services, and for the CSEA to receive federal financial participation reimbursement to offset the cost of the purchase of those services. So they purchase these services. Who do they purchase these services from? Okay, look. These are definitions. Number 3, contractor refers to a private or what? Governmental entity with whom the CSEA enters into a contract. Number 1, the CSEA is going into a contract with a governmental entity, which means the Child Support Enforcement Agency is not a government entity, and I'll prove that to you again. Governmental entity includes the following entity in the same county as the CSEA. Again, they're separate. A court, all right? The judge, prosecutor, sheriff, clerk of court, doesn't matter. These are all public officials, okay? Now, let's look at what a Title 4D contract means. Title 4D contract means a mutually binding legal relationship obligating a governmental entity to provide 4D services in 4D cases or perform other administrative duties of the what? The CSEA. The CSEA is not even listed as a governmental entity that pertain to a 4D case in return for payment from the CSEA. They have a financial interest in the case, don't they? Here it is right here under Section A. Okay? They have an interest, and it is a financial interest. That's the only reason they're doing it. Now, let's check something else. All right? So you see here, these are the definitions of a governmental entity under line 4. Okay? Right here, these are the definitions. You'll notice that the Child Support Enforcement Agency is not among the definitions of a governmental entity. And we'll go down here to 13. Private entity means a company, organization, or individual that does not meet the definition of governmental entity. So that means that the Child Support Enforcement Service is, sorry about that, a governmental entity. It's not a governmental entity. It's not defined. Okay? So therefore, all these public officials have an interest, an unauthorized interest, in a public contract, and you can bring charges against them. If they did it to Tracy, they can do it. You can do it to another job or a judge. Okay, but don't forget that if they can get her on this, then start bringing charges. All right, go to the Ohio law. And this is for my Ohio brothers. You can download their contracts. All right, I've got a copy of their contract as well. Okay, and file an action against the judge. File an action against the clerk of the court. File an action against the prosecutor, the sheriff, all right, the recorder's office, the treasurer's office, or any other public.
For any state, that is a good one right there, right? Go down and do a FOIA request, and I don't know where to go, all right? Once again, this is hearsay on my behalf, so it's just a learning deal. But go down and do a FOIA request to get the contract of the 4D program that your county's doing or your state with the federal government, and see what kind of terms and agreements they are doing. And okay, y'all, when you read this with the trickery of words. Fully understand what they're talking about, all right? Certain things is so broad. A couple other videos back, it's talked about how vague some of this stuff is, right? Trickery of words.
Or governmental agency or official. There it is right there. They got a financial interest in this case. They have an unlawful interest in a public contract, and their law cannot be disputed. Again, gentlemen, you do not have to reinvent the wheel. Take their information, use it against them, all right, and start cracking some heads. I'm the Alman Osiris. My email's in the description box. Bang it if you need some help. All right, and again, my brothers in Ohio, I'll put the links down here so you can get to this information. Okay? You need an appointment?
Anyway, all right, so check him out, all right? So I'm not going to obviously do copies of all his videos. I just did a couple of them so you can kind of get the basic ideas, since I did a couple of other videos, and see what the trickery is involved in this, right? Here in Texas, we have a couple of people in medium class, which is talked about in the other videos, that they actually agreed to an agreement. But the Attorney General made the 4D intervene and push themselves in this thing. And I may be wrong, but I think the guy involved in this gone ahead and signed a contract or anything. He may be fine. I had to relook at the video and understand this, but anyway, be very careful about, even if the judge orders it, do not sign it. They cannot do nothing if they cannot force you to sign a contract. That is unconstitutional, it's illegal, and it's unlawful. So there's three things right there. It's unconstitutional by federal, unconstitutional by state, it's unlawful, and it's illegal to force anybody into any type of contract.
Then come on down.
So anyway, check his other videos out. They're all fairly small. He gives you bits and pieces of what he does. Okay, just full disclosure, he's kind of one-sided because the simple fact, be perfect or blunt, 90% of this is against men. So he's in generally talking about men, but women out there, you can actually do this if you're in this predicament, right? So once again, every one of y'all, before marriage, read the 4D. During marriage, together, read the 4D and understand it. And after marriage, read the 4D to remind yourself of the last 2 times you read the 4D. Alright, it never hurts to kind of keep this in mind and to see how this is going to affect your family if occasion arises that you are going to split the family. Okay, I'm 100% for staying together. Me and my wife was blessed. We raised all our kids. And this does not benefit me whatsoever. This is a learning video for y'all out there that may be in the same circumstance. I do have families going through the situation. So, therefore, learn it. Keep it in mind. And that may help you stay within the guidelines to trying to keep your family together. Quit being greedy to oneself. and share yourself with the other. A lot of fights is because I want. Okay? Alrighty. And I've been married for 28 years. Alright? There's a lot of things my significant other wants, and there's a lot of things I want. But we have to compromise because we don't always get what we want. Alright. These are We the People News. Bye, y'all.